On a quiet morning in 1991, an 11-year-old girl was walking to her school bus in South Lake Tahoe, California. She never made it. In a matter of seconds, Jaycee Dugard vanished, taken from the side of the road in broad daylight, in a neighborhood where people were awake, nearby, and going about their normal lives. For the next 18 years, Jaycee was officially listed as missing. Her face appeared on posters. Her name was spoken on the news. And slowly, like so many cases before it, the search began to fade. What no one knew was that Jaycee was still alive. Not across the country, not overseas, but hidden just miles away, living behind fences, sheds, and locked doors, while the world above believed she was gone forever. This is not just a story about a kidnapping. It's a story about how a child could disappear in plain sight, how warning signs were repeatedly ignored, and how one of the longest captivity cases in American history unfolded right under the noses of the systems meant to prevent it. For nearly 2 decades, Jaycee lived a life controlled by fear, isolation, and manipulation, while her captors interacted with law enforcement, neighbors, and parole officers without ever being stopped. And when the truth finally came out, it exposed not just a crime, but a series of devastating failures. Before we continue, it's important to say that this case involves the abduction and long-term captivity of a child. While I will avoid graphic detail, viewer discretion is advised. This video is not meant to sensationalize trauma. It's meant to tell the story accurately, respectfully, and to honor the strength of a survivor who endured what no one ever should. This is the case of Jaycee Dugard, and this is how one of America's most shocking true crime stories began. Jaycee Lee Dugard was born in 1980 and lived with her mother, Terry Probin, in South Lake Tahoe, California. On the morning of August 26, 1991, Jaycee was walking to her school bus stop when a car pulled over beside her. In seconds, she was taken. The abduction happened in broad daylight on a residential street with people nearby. The disappearance immediately triggered a massive search. Law enforcement launched an investigation, volunteers canvassed neighborhoods, and Jaycee's face quickly spread across missing person posters and news broadcasts across the country. Despite the effort, leads began to dry up. There were no confirmed sightings, no clear suspects, and no physical evidence pointing to where Jaycee had been taken. As time passed, the case slowly went cold. What investigators didn't know was that Jaycee had been abducted by Phillip Garrido, a convicted sex offender, and his wife, Nancy Garrido. Jaycee was taken to their property in Antioch, California, where she would remain hidden for the next 18 years. During that time, she was kept isolated from the outside world, controlled through fear and manipulation, and forced to live in a series of hidden structures on the Garrido property, just miles from schools, neighborhoods, and law enforcement offices. To the public, Jaycee was considered a tragic missing child case, one of many that never found resolution. In reality, she was still alive, growing up in captivity, while the world moved on without her. This is what makes the Jaycee Dugard case so unsettling. It wasn't just a disappearance. It was a prolonged captivity that existed alongside everyday life, unseen and unquestioned for nearly 2 decades. The morning Jaycee Dugard disappeared began like any other school day. It was August 26, 1991, and Jaycee was walking along her usual route to the school bus stop near her home in South Lake Tahoe. She was 11 years old and carrying her backpack, expecting nothing more than a normal day at school. As she walked, a car pulled up beside her. Inside were Phillip Garrido and Nancy Garrido. Without warning, Garrido attacked. Jaycee was forcibly taken from the roadside in a matter of seconds. The abduction was violent, fast, and deliberate, leaving almost no time for anyone nearby to react. A witness saw part of the attack and attempted to intervene, but Garrido threatened them with a weapon and fled with Jaycee in the car. Within minutes, Jaycee was gone, Law enforcement responded quickly. Roadblocks were set up, helicopters were deployed, and officers searched the surrounding area. The urgency was clear. A child had been abducted in broad daylight. Despite the response, Garrido managed to escape the area. Jaycee was transported hundreds of miles away to Antioch, California, where Garrido owned a property that would soon become her prison. The speed and boldness of the kidnapping shocked investigators. This was not a crime of opportunity, it was planned. Phillip Garrido had a criminal history and was already on parole at the time. Yet somehow, he was able to abduct a child in public and disappear without being immediately identified. For Jaycee's family, the hours turned into days, and days turned into years. The hope of finding her alive slowly faded. But Jaycee was still alive, trapped in a world no one knew existed, with no way to reach the people searching for her. This moment marked the beginning of 18 years of captivity, years that would unfold hidden in plain sight. To understand how Jaycee Dugard remained hidden for so long, it's important to understand who Phillip and Nancy Garrido were, and how they were able to avoid suspicion for nearly 2 decades. Phillip Garrido was a convicted sex offender. He had a long criminal history and was already on parole at the time of Jaycee's abduction. This meant he was supposed to be monitored closely by law enforcement. On paper, Garrido was considered dangerous. In reality, oversight was inconsistent, and crucial warning signs were repeatedly missed. Garrido lived with his wife, Nancy Garrido, on a property in Antioch, California. To neighbors, the couple appeared unusual, but not criminal. They kept to themselves and maintained a sense of privacy that discouraged questions. Behind closed doors, Garrido exerted total control. He ruled through fear, manipulation, and isolation, not just over Jaycee, but over Nancy as well. Nancy later claimed she was emotionally dependent on Garrido and afraid of him. Over time, she became complicit in the captivity, helping enforce Jaycee's isolation and maintaining the secrecy that kept the crime hidden. The Garrido property itself played a key role. Jaycee was kept in makeshift structures behind fences, concealed from view. Garrido controlled when she could move, speak, or be seen, effectively erasing her existence from the outside world. Perhaps most disturbing of all is that parole officers visited Garrido multiple times over the years. They spoke with him, inspected parts of the property, and yet never discovered Jaycee or the children living there. The Garridos weren't invisible, they were overlooked. Their ability to blend into society while committing horrific crimes highlights how dangerous trust, complacency, and failed oversight can be. And while the world believed Jaycee Dugard was lost forever, the people responsible for her captivity were living freely, protected by the very systems meant to stop them. Life in captivity was built around total control and isolation. After being taken to the Garrido property in Antioch, Jaycee was kept hidden in a series of makeshift structures behind the house, enclosed spaces surrounded by fences, tarps, and locked doors. From the outside, they appeared like cluttered storage areas. In reality, they were designed to keep someone unseen and unheard. Jaycee had no contact with the outside world. She wasn't allowed to attend school, speak to neighbors, or even be seen. Garrido controlled every aspect of her daily life. When she ate, when she slept, and when she was allowed to move. Over time, isolation became her reality. Years passed without her seeing normal life beyond the property. Birthdays came and went unnoticed. Seasons changed without meaning. Childhood faded away behind locked gates. Despite the conditions, Jaycee found ways to survive. She created routines, clung to memories of her life before captivity, and focused on staying mentally strong. Survival became less about escape and more about enduring. Control was maintained not just through physical barriers, but through fear and manipulation. Garrido convinced Jaycee that no one would believe her, that escape was impossible, and that obedience was the only way to stay alive. What makes this period especially haunting is its length. This was not days or months, it was 18 years. Life in captivity became normal, not because it was safe, but because it was all Jaycee was allowed to know. During her years in captivity, Jaycee Dugard became a mother. While still being held prisoner on the Garrido property, Jaycee gave birth to 2 daughters. Like Jaycee, the girls were raised in isolation, hidden from the outside world, unaware of what a normal childhood looked like. For Jaycee, motherhood became both a source of fear and a reason to survive. She was still a captive, still under control, but now she was responsible for protecting 2 innocent lives in an environment built on secrecy and control. The children grew up knowing only the world inside the fenced enclosure. They didn't attend school. They didn't interact with other children. Their understanding of life was shaped entirely by isolation and manipulation. Jaycee did everything she could to shield them emotionally, creating a sense of routine and care despite the circumstances. She taught them, comforted them, and tried to provide stability in a situation designed to strip it away. The presence of the children also deepened the deception. To the outside world, they simply didn't exist. No birth records, no school enrollment, no medical oversight beyond what Garrido controlled. This meant that for years, 3 people lived hidden in plain sight, just feet away from neighbors, parole officers, and everyday life, without anyone realizing they were there. The existence of the children underscores how prolonged and complete the captivity was. Entire childhoods passed without detection, shaped entirely by isolation and control. And still, the world believed Jaycee Dugard was gone forever. As the years passed, the world outside continued to move on. In the early days after Jaycee Dugard disappeared, her case received widespread attention. Search teams scoured the area. Media outlets covered her story. Her face appeared on missing person posters across the country. But as time went on, leads dried up. No confirmed sightings, no new evidence, no clear suspects. Like so many missing child cases, Jaycee's name slowly faded from headlines. The investigation remained open, but hope quietly diminished. Many assumed the worst. For Jaycee's family, life became an endless cycle of waiting and grief. Her mother continued to believe she might still be alive, but the absence of answers made each passing year harder than the last. Meanwhile, Jaycee was growing up in captivity. While the world forgot her, she became a teenager, and then an adult, hidden behind fences in a suburban neighborhood. Seasons changed, years passed, entire phases of life slipped by without recognition. What makes this especially haunting is how close she was to normal life. Schools, homes, busy streets, all existed just beyond the barriers that kept her invisible. This contrast is one of the most disturbing elements of the case. Jaycee wasn't lost to the world. She was overlooked by it. Her disappearance became another cold case, another unresolved tragedy, filed away by time. But Jaycee was still there, still surviving, still waiting. And the moment that would finally bring the truth to light was approaching. Not because someone was looking for her, but because of a chance encounter that would change everything. One of the most disturbing aspects of the Jaycee Dugard case is how many warning signs were missed over the course of 18 years. Phillip Garrido was not an unknown threat. He was a registered sex offender and was on active parole for much of Jaycee's captivity. This meant he was supposed to be closely monitored by the very systems designed to protect the public. Parole officers visited Garrido multiple times over the years. They spoke with him. They inspected parts of his property. And yet, they never uncovered the fenced-off areas where Jaycee and her daughters were being held. In some cases, visits were brief. In others, inspections were incomplete. Garrido was able to manipulate appearances, control access, and avoid deeper scrutiny. Neighbors also noticed things that seemed strange: high fences, restricted areas, Garrido's intense need for privacy. but nothing appeared alarming enough to trigger serious investigation. What makes this failure so unsettling is that Jaycee was not hidden in a remote location. She was living in a suburban neighborhood, surrounded by homes, schools, and public services. The systems meant to stop someone like Garrido relied heavily on trust and routine. As long as boxes were checked and paperwork was filed, deeper questions were rarely asked. The Jaycee Dugard case exposed how dangerous complacency can be, especially when dealing with individuals who are skilled at manipulation and deception. For nearly 2 decades, oversight failed. And during that time, a missing child grew up just out of sight, waiting for the moment when the truth would finally be seen. The truth finally came to light in August 2009, almost 18 years after Jaycee Dugard was abducted. The moment that exposed everything didn't come from a tip or a breakthrough in the investigation. It came from a routine encounter. Phillip Garrido arrived at the University of California, Berkeley, accompanied by Jaycee and 2 young girls. His behavior immediately raised red flags. Campus police found him unstable, rambling, and incoherent. Officers separated Garrido from Jaycee and began asking questions. As they spoke with her privately, inconsistencies in Garrido's story became impossible to ignore. Further investigation revealed that the girls with Jaycee were her daughters, and that none of them were supposed to exist. Law enforcement contacted parole officers and reopened Garrido's file. A search of his Antioch property followed, uncovering the fenced enclosure where Jaycee and her children had been hidden for years. Phillip Garrido was arrested on the spot. Nancy Garrido was taken into custody shortly after. For the first time since 1991, Jaycee Dugard was free. The discovery sent shockwaves through the country. A missing child, long believed lost, had been found alive, living just miles from where her captor was being monitored. The case quickly moved through the justice system. Phillip Garrido was charged with multiple counts, including kidnapping and sexual assault. Nancy Garrido faced charges for her role in facilitating the captivity. In 2011, Phillip Garrido was sentenced to 431 years to life in prison, ensuring he would never be free again. After 18 years, the truth was finally known, but the impact of the case was only beginning to be understood. After 18 years of captivity, Jaycee Dugard was finally free. But freedom didn't mean life returned to normal immediately. She had to rebuild her world from scratch, emotionally, mentally, and physically. The trauma of nearly 2 decades of isolation, manipulation, and control left deep scars that required years of therapy and support to begin to heal. Despite everything, Jaycee showed incredible resilience and strength. She focused on raising her daughters, protecting them, and reclaiming a life that had been stolen from her. Over time, she began speaking publicly about her experience, turning her story into a platform for awareness and advocacy for other victims of abduction and abuse. The case also forced society to examine its own failures. How could a registered sex offender on parole hold a child captive for nearly 2 decades without being caught? How could warning signs be ignored repeatedly? These questions sparked reforms in parole oversight, monitoring of high-risk offenders, and awareness around child safety. Jaycee's story is more than a tale of horror. It's a story of survival, courage, and the power of hope. It reminds us that even in the darkest circumstances, the human spirit can endure, and the smallest acts of vigilance or compassion can change everything. Her experience also stands as a warning. Dangers can exist in plain sight, and systems designed to protect can fail, making awareness and accountability more important than ever. The story of Jaycee Dugard is heartbreaking, but it is also inspiring. It shows that one person's survival can illuminate the truth, create change, and offer hope to countless others. That's the full story of Jaycee Dugard, a case that shocked the nation, revealed failures in the system, and showed the incredible resilience of a survivor who endured the unimaginable. If you found this video eye-opening, make sure to hit the like button to let me know you want more deep dives into true crime stories like this. And don't forget to subscribe to Crime Fior and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video exploring the most shocking and compelling true crime cases from around the world.